Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi chose the last full week of 2020 to make two important pitches. One to India's Muslims and one to India's farmers. Both are large, numerous and powerful sets of his constituents. Now, we talked about his pitch to the farmers and cut the clutter, so we will leave that aside for now. For this national interest, we are focusing on what he said to the Muslims. And there are four reasons why we do so. One, that just the pattern that even 2019 he ended with a pitch to India's Muslims. And that was at Ramlila Maidan in his speech. Second, it so happened, maybe it's a coincidence, maybe it's serendipity, or maybe there is more to it, but in journalism we follow the 3 example rule. So we'll wait for December 22, 2021, and once again, if he makes an outreach to Muslims on that day, then we'll see a pattern in this. But let's say it's a coincidence that last year's speech was on 22nd December, as was this year's. Third reason is that this approach to the Muslims, again, as it did last year, it sounds contrary or runs contrary to the actions of his party and his government, or the politics practiced by his party and his followers. So what exactly does he mean? It is significant. And fourth, there is a very significant statement by his deputy any which way, Amit Shah, and it's a statement he made in West Bengal, where he said, he explained why CAA had not been put into operation right now. He said, a pandemic was still raging. How could it do it when a pandemic was raging? So wait for the vaccine to be rolled out. Now, vaccine to be rolled out could mean anything. It could mean until 1 crore Indians are vaccinated, or 10 crore are vaccinated, or 20 crores are vaccinated, or maybe as soon as the vaccination process starts, I don't know. But it is quite clear that this was an indication that government was getting off the curb when it comes to CAA, and that despite the fact there's Bengal elections coming up, and with that Assam elections coming up as well, because that is a ploy for both those elections. So why is he doing it now, and why has he chosen AMU to do it, and what's he saying at AMU? Because AMU earlier this year was in deep trouble. It faced police excesses, protests, counter excesses, counter protests, and there was a lot of calumny thrown at it, as if AMU was the fount of the Pakistan thought, and somehow AMU bred this thought process of Indian Muslims being different from the other Indians. So he chose AMU to make this conciliatory statement. And what did he say? He said, first of all, that nothing I do is discriminatory towards minorities. That, if you look at his welfare programs, is a true statement. That is not a claim that you can dispute. The second thing he said was, he described, the same AMU which was called the fount of Pakistan until a few months back as mini India. And he said, you represent all of India, you are a mini India. And he repeated his Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas. And he also said that you students and faculty should also set a good example of India to the whole world. Now that is a very important statement, because AMU gets a lot of foreign students. So I checked with Fatima Khan, who's our correspondent, to check the numbers. And she tells me that AMU at this point has about 615 foreign students out of a total of 22,000. And if you look at these numbers, these are very interesting in terms of where they come from. So there are 42 from Afghanistan, 68 from Bangladesh, 66 from Indonesia, 49 from Jordan, 20 from Nepal, 13 from Palestine, 15 from Iran, 117 from Thailand, Turkmenistan has 21, Yemen 151, and Iraq 29. Now all these are countries that are friendly to India. Many of these are Muslim countries, but these are friendly to India. So these are vital international relationships. So obviously, when Narendra Modi says that you should convey a good impression of India to the whole world, he's concerned about the impression that these students are taking back, because their impression over the last year must be hostile or negative or overwhelmingly critical of India and India's treatment of Muslims, because they also live in a universe of angry, alienated, educated young Muslims. So that's why this becomes an even more important outreach. Now, you may still ask me, why should Modi bother? Muslims don't vote for him. He and Amit Shah have now confected this new politics for the BJP, whereas they discount the Muslim vote. In fact, they discount the Muslim and mostly Christian vote also. So they say, we bat in a field of about 80%, taking out the Muslims and most of the Christians. So we bat in a field of 80% Hindus. If we get half of them to vote for us, we have a majority, so where is the problem? So they have made the Muslim vote irrelevant in the national political equation. So why should Narendra Modi now bother reaching out to the Muslims? Because it's not as if Muslims will start voting for him. Now, you could see also some of this come up last year when he spoke in 2019. Now, as we look for clues to what Narendra Modi may have meant or where he is coming from or what is motivating him to make this speech, I have to take you back to his speech on December 22, 2019. There, he was obviously a little bit taken aback or sobered by the fact that Muslim protesters were using the tricolor, the national anthem, and the constitution. And he did say that, look, if you do all this, then you should also speak against terrorism. Now, that was a kind of Tebbit test to which BJP RSS subject India's minorities to, especially Muslims to. What is Tebbit test? Norman Tebbit was a conservative politician in UK who in 1990 came up with this idea that British citizens who had come in, who were immigrants from former colonies, former cricket playing colonies, when their countries, original countries teams came visiting to England, they backed their native countries teams against the country where they had taken their citizenship. So that is Tebbit test. So if you are a loyal Indian Muslim, you must also speak against terrorism. But that apart, he also made a very important point there, a very significant point. He said that, look, if I was anti-Muslim, why would so many Muslim countries be giving me their top national honors? And it is true that many important Muslim countries have given him their top Muslim honors. Now, why should he have been even bothering about that? Now, we can say that everybody likes awards and adulation and honors, yet whatever these mean to Modi personally, more important is that this was part of the very significant reaching out he had made to the Islamic world, or one important section of the Islamic world. In fact, if you saw his diplomacy, his strategic approach as it unfolded after he became Prime Minister, he tried to outflank Pakistan by taking away its allies and old friends on both sides. So on the western side, he reached out to the Arab countries, especially UAE and Saudi Arabia. And in the east, he reached out to China, Xi Jinping. Now, it so happens that his outreach to China, Xi Jinping failed. It failed, and Xi Jinping, if anything, saw more benefit in being hostile to India and moving closer to Pakistan. So you have a situation now where Pakistan is more or less China's protectorate. On the other hand, the approach to the west, to the western side worked. Not to the west. When we say west, we think of the western countries. West of Pakistan, it worked. So Arab countries today have strained relations with Pakistan. Strained to the extent that Saudi Arabia is now demanding its loans back from Pakistan, and China is playing the white knight by giving Pakistan loans to, in a way, refinance Pakistan's borrowings. UAE has stopped issuing visas to Pakistanis. Pakistanis are reaching out now, trying to please the sheikhs by letting them come and hunt for Hubara, the great Indian bustard, which is a protected species. We'll tell you about that at some other point later. Arab sheikhs like to hunt for the hubara with their falcons. So they have started that. They are so desperate. So that is the area where it's worked. Now, where it failed with China, obviously India couldn't have done very much. And India can't do very much. Our forces are standing eyeballs to eyeballs. But does Modi also want to lose out on the gains that he has made west of Pakistan with the Arab world? Now, this comes at a very complicated time and very interesting time. This comes at a time when Trump is on his way out. Biden will come in. Biden also wants to reopen to Iran. He wants to resume negotiations on JCPOA, the nuclear deal with Iran. As that happens, sanctions on Iran will loosen. When that happens, India's opportunities in Iran will also open up. That is east of the Persian Gulf. Saudi Arabia, UAE are west of the Persian Gulf. So that will open up. With Iran, India has had an old strategic, economic and cultural relationship. There is also an interest in oil. There is also an interest in Chabahar, the reach to Afghanistan. It is a very important relationship. And remember, Iran's leader Khamenei also, he's never been as nasty as say Turkey's Erdogan or Mahathir of Malaysia, but he also has been critical of Modi government's treatment of the Muslims, especially on CAA and Kashmir as well. So do you still want to push him to a corner, or now with America opening up to Iran and Iran losing its sanctioned status, or Iran regaining its acceptance in the world, India still wants Iran alienated. Then closer home, you have Bangladesh. Now, Bangladesh is India's most important friend in the neighborhood. I say it often, but you can imagine what would have happened and what would our strategic picture be if Bangladesh was also nothing more than a Bengali-speaking Pakistan to our east. It is not. It is our closest friend in the neighborhood. Also, it's a large friend in the neighborhood. It's also a growing friend. All social indicators, incomes, it's left Pakistan behind. In fact, this year on per capita incomes, it will also leave India behind. Because India took a certain position on the Muslims here, because this immigrant issue or illegal quote-unquote infiltrator issue became so central to BJP's politics, and the talk of calling them termites and throwing them in the Bay of Bengal started, Bangladesh's government also came under pressure domestically and had to distance itself. And that's why so many of these visits and meetings were cancelled between the two countries, which was a big strategic loss for India. And that empty space that opened up, both China and Pakistan was searching for more leverage. Pakistan didn't find that much. The Chinese found more leverage. Remember, most of Bangladesh's armed forces weapon systems are bought from China. So that is what caused concern for India, because it was Bangladesh's anger or Bangladesh's alienation which most of all underlined the risks of letting your domestic politics play into your foreign policy interests, or letting your domestic politics harm your larger strategic interests. And I'd like to believe in this national interest that Narendra Modi is now pulling back from that. He has realized it's not a change of heart. What we are seeing is probably a change of tactics. For a time when global picture is changing, India's own cachet value has diminished along with its economic growth rates. Because if you are growing, remember my old line, if you are growing at 8%, 7 khoon maaf. If you are growing at 7%, 5 khoon maaf. If you are growing at 4%, no khoon maaf. And if you are growing negatively, then you better be a good child. And that is why it's important for India to clean up its act. And I'd like to believe that Narendra Modi's government understands it. It also understands the downside of letting internal politics play havoc with larger strategic interest. And this is just when India's vulnerabilities have risen as a frontline state against China, and India's need for allies and friends is greater than at any time 50 years ago. 50 years ago is when India was building up and searching for allies to fight against Pakistan as Bangladeshi refugees were coming in. And that's when India had signed its Treaty of Peace, Friendship and Cooperation, as it was called, with the Soviet Union. So India is at a juncture like that. The last thing India needs is to let its internal politics ruin its strategic prospects.